Hello everyone, today we're going to be working on value scales. Value refers to the lightness or darkness of a color. Value scales are very, very useful when trying to color an image, whether you're using paint or color pencil or whatever, because it gives you a reference point of being able to match the shades or the tones or the values of an object that you're drawing. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill in this pre-drawn scale. There are 7 equally sized boxes. You can easily just draw this yourself as well. And I have it labeled as one end being the lightest, the other end being the darkest, and I found the middle square and wrote medium on it, just as a reference point for where we're going to be shading. Now, when doing your shading, the hardest part of value scales for a lot of people is controlling the pressure of your pencil. So I'm going to show you a few tricks to maybe help you control the pressure of your pencil. It's a skill, just like anything else, that can be learned with practice and repetition. Okay, I'm going to start at the darkest end and work my way from dark to light. The darkest is representing the absolute darkest value that I can get with the material I'm using, which in this case is pencil. So when you're doing this, fill in the square or circle or whatever the shape is as completely and solidly as possible. I'm pushing down as hard as I can. One way to get good pressure is keeping your fingertips closer to the tip of the pencil. That gives you more leverage so you can color in darker. Also, you want to make sure that you are filling this in completely and not scribbling. If you scribble, it's going to be really hard to tell one value from another. Scribbles are just not good examples of that. So I'm working my way from darkest slowly to the lightest. The lightest is going to be completely white. All right, so that's my darkest. Now I'm going to work with the square next to it, and we're still at the end that we would consider dark. This end is all going to be kind of dark, but it is a step away from the darkest. So this time I'm going to fill in the whole square, but I'm just not going to press as hard as I did for the first one. I still want it to be dark. I just don't want to use the same intensity, the same intense pressure that I used for the first one. So I'm going to still make sure it's dark looking, but it's just going to be a little bit less intense. Now, what you want to do at this point, or start doing, is making sure that every square that you complete is different than the one on either side of it. We don't want any 2 squares to be the same. So the best way to do this, which we don't have to do much for it right now, is to look at them side by side or even block the other things around it and really examine, do those 2 tones look different? Do those 2 values look different from each other? In my opinion, they do. This one definitely feels a little bit darker to me, whereas this one feels a little bit lighter. So I'm going to move on to my next one. Same thing, it should still be dark. It just shouldn't be as intensely dark as this one. So I'm going to, again, use my pencil pressure to try to get a tone that's still in the world of darkness, just not as intense as this. Now you'll notice that I'm going up and down one direction, up and down another direction in order to fill in my square. You'll also notice that when I hold my pencil at this point, I'm not holding it too close to the end. When you hold your pencil with your fingers close to it, you tend to use more pressure. You tend to push harder when your fingertips are this close. When your hand is higher up on the pencil barrel, it really forces you to not be able to press as hard because you just don't have the leverage to do it. So this is a good way to kind of try to help yourself not to push as hard. Put your hands higher up on the pencil if you think you're pushing too hard. That can be one strategy. Now I'm going to examine these 2 to see if they look the same or different. They look a little bit different. I think that this is still pretty close to that one though. I think that the similarities are pretty similar. So what I'm going to do is take my eraser and I'm just going to erase a tiny bit of this one that I just did to see if I can lighten it up just a touch. And I'm going to re-examine it and side by side see if they look different. I'm doing this process of covering up everything around it to help not distract me so that I'm really focused on the 2 values that I really want to concentrate on. So these do look different to me now. I can double check. These look different. Those look different. I'm going to continue on. Now I'm ready to do the next square. This is the medium. I've labeled it medium. So this really should be a nice middle gray. So we want it to be a perfectly average middle medium tone, just right here in the middle of our value scale. When you're done, again, cover up the squares, see if they look different enough. If they don't look different enough, either darken this one or lighten this one up. I think there is enough variation there that we can move on to the next one. And now I'm getting into the light side. Okay, so now we got to make sure that we're really focusing on lightening up our values, that we're not pushing as hard. Remember, this one's going to just stay white. So I'm really trying to keep my hand even higher up on the pencil, to really force myself to not be able to use as much pressure. And let's examine if they look different enough. I do think there's enough difference there, and let's try to do our last one. Now this one should be in between white and this, so at this point, what I'm doing, by the time I get to this square, I'm actually not even using any pressure at all. I'm literally just moving the pencil back and forth. I'm using my hand to help give it leverage so that it'll move back and forth, but I am not putting any pressure down at all. I'm literally just moving my hand back and forth, and that is completely it. And one last time, let's just examine, see if they look different enough. I think they do, and our value scale is completed. If you think you need to do any tweaking, you think you need to layer a little bit more to make something a little bit darker or a little bit lighter than something else, just to give this a little bit more of a difference, then definitely go back in there and do that, so that you can make sure each square in fact looks different from each other, so that when you look at it further away, you should have a nice progression of dark to light.